Well, friends, we have another book to talk about. The memoirs of former Vice President Mike Pence. And based on some new reporting today, it looks like in his book, Mike Pence reveals that he chose to conceal some of the crimes of former President Donald Trump. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. No, I'm not in my studio today. As you can see, I'm in beautiful downtown Washington, D.C., at one of my favorite spots here, the Law Enforcement Memorial, which is pretty awe-inspiring and I think appropriate for the topic of this video, because former Vice President Mike Pence has written his own book now, ready to profit off his public service. And some of what's being reported today by the New York Times includes that Mike Pence chose to conceal the fact that Donald Trump was pressuring him, placing enormous pressure on him to do something that was criminal, that was unconstitutional, refused to certify President Joe Biden's win. Let's turn to the reporting first. This from the New York Times. Headline: in a new book, Pence reflects on Trump and January 6th. Quote, "You're too honest," close quote. President Donald J. Trump said as he pressured his vice president to intervene to block Joseph R. Biden Jr.'s victory. And that article begins, former President Donald J. Trump told Mike Pence that he was too honest when he balked at the idea he could unilaterally sway the outcome of the 2020 election as Mr. Trump mounted an intense pressure campaign to bend Mr. Pence to his will, the former vice president writes in his upcoming memoir. Mr. Trump, Mr. Pence writes, tried various means of pressuring him, including mentioning that Mr. Pence was trending on Twitter in connection with speculation about what he would do. Quote, "If you want to be popular," Mr. Trump said, suggesting that he should not take part in the certification at all, quote, "don't do it." Mr. Pence describes in the book how Mr. Trump worked with the conservative lawyer John Eastman to press him into doing something that the vice president was clear that he could not and would not do. He writes that on the morning of January 6th, Mr. Trump twisted the knife again in a phone call. Quote, "You'll go down as a wimp," the president told the vice president. "If you do that, I made a big mistake 5 years ago." Okay, can I add a little bit of fiction to Mike Pence's memoir? You know, the next paragraph should probably read something like, "So then I, the Vice President of the United States, promptly reported Donald Trump's crimes to the appropriate law enforcement authority. Thereafter, I, Mike Pence, knew I would have to volunteer to testify before the January 6th House Select Committee investigating Donald Trump's insurrection, Donald Trump's to end our democracy. So I contacted Chairman of the committee, Benny Thompson, and I said, Representative Thompson, Mr. Chairman, I need to testify, and I need to do it now. That's not, I'm assuming, how Mike Pence's memoir reads. Why? Because Mike Pence concealed Donald Trump's crimes from law enforcement authorities, from the American people, and thus far, he has concealed the information he has about Donald Trump's unlawful attempts to overturn the results of a presidential election, concealed it from the Congressional Committee investigating the insurrection. That's what Mike Pence did. That's who Mike Pence is. And in the event anybody cares, what Mike Pence did is kind of felony-ish, because there's this crime called misprision of a felony. And here's how that statute reads. It's 18 United States Code, Section 4, misprision of a felony. Whoever, having knowledge of the actual commission of a felony cognizable by a court of the United States, conceals and does not, as soon as possible, make known the same to some judge or other person in civil or military authority under the United States, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 3 years or both. So that's what Mike Pence did. Conceal and did not, as soon as possible, report Donald Trump's crimes to a judge or other civil or military law enforcement authority. To the extent anybody still cares, that's a crime. And that's why I think we need to pursue a campaign that I've talked about before, involving a renaissance of ethics in government, a resurgence of ethics in government. And friends, there are ways we can do it. And I'm going to ask for your help. In tomorrow's video, I'm going to talk about what precisely we can do to concretely change this culture of public servants like Mike Pence and John Bolton and Bill Barr and Mike Pompeo, concealing crimes of a corrupt president, not reporting them, and then including them in a book for profit. There's something we can do concretely to change it. And I'm going to talk about that in tomorrow's video. But for now, friends, I think we need to insist loudly, early, and often that people like Mike Pence, together with John Bolton and Mike Pompeo and Bill Barr and others who concealed the crimes of Donald Trump in violation of that federal statute, misprision of a felony, we need to insist that they be investigated, that they be held accountable, that they be prosecuted if the evidence supports bringing a prosecution against them. Because if we don't, we just continue to be lost in this vast, unethical wasteland that pretty much sums up the Trump years. These folks need to be held accountable. If we give one whit about the rule of law and about ethics in government and about justice. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with y'all again tomorrow.